the creepiest things I've ever seen. It was 3:30 a.m.
Flash is on. Alright, let's take a look.
What do you think's in there?
I don't know. I guess nothing.
This one is the 2000s core horror movie. Let's do it. Sorority Row is about the girls of the Theta Pi sorority, and it's their senior year, so they're throwing a party in their sorority house to celebrate. So we have Claire, Ellie, Cassidy, Chugs, and Jessica. And we also have Megan. Now, Megan and Jessica decide that they are going to play a prank on Megan's boyfriend, Garrett, who also happens to be Chug's brother. And they're doing this out of revenge because Garrett cheated on her. So the prank is Jessica gives Garrett roofies to slip to Megan, which he does, so she's unconscious and he's like making out with her, so yes, we fucking hate Garrett. And all of a sudden, Megan starts convulsing and foaming at the mouth. So Garrett panics and goes to tell Jessica, and the girls are all freaking out because they're not aware of the prank at this point. But eventually they all go in the room, Megan comes too, they let them in on the prank. So the girls think it's great and they decide they're all gonna get involved. So the girls make Garrett believe that Megan is dead, and they put her body in the car and they all drive to this abandoned mine shaft to dump her body. They talk about dismembering her body beforehand, so while the girls are all trying to hide their laughter, Garrett comes up with a tire iron and impales Megan and actually kills her. And obviously at this point they reveal to him that it was just a prank and she was alive, and he has now just killed her. So the girls now all realize that they're going to be culpable for this in some way, so they decide to throw Megan's body down the mine shaft. The only girl that is really against this is Cassidy, but the others tell her, like, if she doesn't go along with it, they're gonna blame this on her. So she has no other choice, and she goes along with it. So then we jump to 8 months later, graduation is approaching, so the girls all get together for, like, a farewell final party. Cassidy shows up with her boyfriend Andy, and you can tell that her relationship with the girls is strained, obviously because she wanted nothing to do with what happened. And Jessica, who was kind of like the ringleader of this whole thing, makes a speech and talks about how Megan is still missing. So the girls are all inside together when all of a sudden they all get the same exact text message, and it's a picture of a bloody tire iron. They all immediately suspect Garrett, but Chugs is like, I don't think he did this, however, he has been really unwell since the incident. So as they're all freaking the fuck out about this, Megan's younger sister Maggie shows up. She says she's there to honor her sister's memory, but also because when she goes to college the next year, she wants to pledge Theta Pi. Later that day or the next day, Chugs goes to see her therapist, where her and her therapist are subsequently brutally murdered by this hooded figure. At one point, Jessica and Claire are in the bathroom discussing their involvement in Megan's murder, but they are unaware that there is another girl in the shower nearby who overhears the whole thing. But it doesn't fucking matter because that girl is then murdered by the same hooded figure. Claire's boyfriend Mickey, who is also a total loser, at one point he wears 2 polo shirts with both the collars popped. He also is murdered by this mysterious hooded figure, but this time Ellie witnesses it, so she knows that something's up. So she tells this to the rest of the group, and they also find a jacket in the house. And it's the jacket that they wrapped Megan's body in before they threw her down the mine shaft. So now they're absolutely convinced that the person doing this is Megan. As they're speculating, they all get another text, and this time it's a video from the night of Megan's death, and it says to come to the mine shaft or the video is going to be sent to the police. So the 4 remaining girls get in the car and they drive to the mine shaft. And when they get there, they encounter Garrett, who has slashed his own wrists and is just completely unwell. So he gets kind of threatening towards them, which causes Jessica to run him over with her car. But after they do that, they look at his phone and see that he has been getting the same texts that they have. So it wasn't him. So this confirms to them, like, Megan is alive and she must be the one doing this out of revenge. And there's only one way for them to find out. So they lower Cassidy down into the mine shaft where they threw Megan's body to see if she's still there. And sure enough, Megan's body is gone, and there is a message down there written in blood that says Theta Pi must die. So the girls go back to the sorority house, and now they get a text from Chugs' phone saying that she's dead, which they were not aware of at this point. And then the hooded figure comes in and offs Claire. So they're running through the house looking for Jessica's boyfriend Kyle, and they find him sleeping with Maggie, which obviously starts a fight. But then they hear somebody coming and they think it's the killer, but it turns out it's just Mrs. Crenshaw, who is the house mother who came to check on them. And in all this chaos, the girls are trying to explain what's going on, and they reveal that they killed Megan, and now she's come back and she's after them. Mrs. Crenshaw has a shotgun, so she's not worried, so she tells the girls to lock themselves in a room and call the police while she goes out and searches for whoever's doing this. So they do that, but Maggie, obviously being pissed at the girls for killing her sister and thinking her sister might be alive, runs out of the room to go find her. So Ellie at this point is completely hysterical, so Cassidy hides her in one of the bedrooms while she and Jessica go upstairs to Mickey's body to try and get his cell phone to call for help. Meanwhile, the killer finds Mrs. Crenshaw and kills her while her last words are "Stay away from my girls." Carrie Fisher, Queen. The killer also finds Maggie, who calls out to Megan thinking it's her, but the killer still chases her and throws a Molotov cocktail at her, which sets the house on fire. While searching the house, Jessica and Cassidy run into Jessica's boyfriend Kyle. Kyle's acting super fucking weird, so now we're suspicious of him, and a fight breaks out between the three of them. The girls manage to injure Kyle, but then he chases them, which causes Jessica and Cassidy to lock themselves in a bathroom. And as they're in there, they pull back the shower curtain to reveal Megan's corpse. So she is dead. This has not been her. As they're shocked by this, Kyle shows up and knocks Jessica out. But as he turns to go for Cassidy, Cassidy's boyfriend Andy shows up and kills Kyle. So we think the day is saved. Kyle was the killer, everything's fine. Wrong. Because Andy reveals that he's the killer. Has been the whole time. So Kyle was just an abusive weirdo, but not a killer. So when Cassidy asks him why he's been doing this, he reveals that Ellie blabbed to him about the whole thing. So he knows that they all killed Megan. So Andy's like, if she's gonna tell me this and barely even knows me, who else is she gonna tell, and who is everybody else that knows gonna tell? And he thought that would jeopardize his future with Cassidy because she could get in trouble if people found out. So he decided that he was going to murder everybody who knew. So Jessica comes to and wakes up, and before she can even process what's going on, Andy kills her. And then he tells Cassidy, okay, the last one left is Ellie, so let's go find her and kill her. So Cassidy starts to play along and is like, okay, I hid Ellie in the basement. So he believes her and leaves to go find Ellie. But we know that Cassidy had hid Ellie in the bedroom closet, so that's where she goes to get her now, and they try to escape. As Cassidy and Ellie are fleeing the house, they run into Andy. And he gets completely pissed from this betrayal from Cassidy because he thought she actually was going to be in on killing Ellie. So Andy comes at Cassidy and the two of them fight. Meanwhile, Ellie is able to run out. Remember, during all of this, the house is on fire. So now Cassidy starts to hear Maggie calling for help. Cassidy manages to get away from Andy long enough to run to Maggie to try to help her. Andy catches up and attacks her as the flames are just engulfing all around them. As Andy is about to kill Cassidy, Ellie returns with Mrs. Crenshaw's shotgun and shoots him. This throws Andy back onto the floor, which then collapses because of the fire, and he falls to his death. And the three remaining girls, Cassidy, Ellie, and Maggie, escape the house before it burns down. And they live happily ever after. For now. Because then we cut to 15 months later, and we see Maggie is now a Theta Pi member. And as we are at this party for new Theta Pi members, the camera zooms out and we see a man with scars on his wrists watching Maggie from a distance. So of course, we presume that to be Garrett, and the movie ends.
On September 27th of 2024, a woman named Jalen immediately grabs her phone to record something on camera. It isn't often the case that this happens, but tonight, it occurred once more. Jalen had been lying in bed while doing work on her laptop when something noticeable appeared from the corner of her eye. Now, given that this incident took place at her grandparents' house, a place abundant with numerous vintage items, she finds it unsurprising that this happened. Some of these items, as she believes, could be cursed or haunted, but even if they weren't, she would still be afraid of coming back to this place, and it's all because of this incident. The following is her footage. Watch.
This thing just moved.
Boy, all the talking head would have been screaming about the Dallas Cowboys and sticking the fork in this organization. So again, kudos to the Cowboys going on the road, get a good win, and see how they win that movie.
There's a saying in golf, there's no pictures on the scorecard. If you're down, you don't care if it's by 5 or it's going to be like, you're just happy that you moved to 2 or 2. The injury to Parsons, and we don't know anything at this point, he just left by a car with the left shoe off. How do you assess what that man needs to do? Feels a lot better if he's on the feet.
I mean, that would be, if he's missing any significant time out of it, he's that better. He's a better player on the side of the football. They have to be playing from the hand. Are best suited when they have a lead and they get on that pass rush. But if you don't have that guy,
The door just moved.
Winning percentage goes 60% when everything's enough.
33 propels 100 affordable housing laws, including the
Quiet early on, much more involved, particularly
the safety over the top, and you'll see right down here. Ever a free personal Suzuki dessert, an entree plus free dessert, just $13. That's a sweet deal.
they weren't able to kick a field goal late. There's a lot of involved.
Are you real? You can do it again. I won't watch.
Here's a quick history of Art the Clown and the Terrifier franchise. Now, if I were to ask you what was Art the Clown's first appearance, most would say, duh, it's All Hallows Eve. False. The first appearance of Art the Clown was actually back in 2008 in Damien Leone's short film, The Ninth Circle. They grow up so fast. Yes, Art the Clown looks a lot different today than he did back then, and there's two reasons why. One, the original actor who played Art the Clown was Mike Gianelli. He played Art until the year 2013. And two, you'll notice that they weren't quite using the prosthetic for Art's face like they are today. But that changes in 2008 when the Terrifier short film is released. This is the short film, not the film that came out in 2016. Now, for Art the Clown's feature-length debut in All Hallows Eve, both The Ninth Circle and the Terrifier short were used in this film. They were both one of the segments on the VHS tape that they find in the trick-or-treat bag. It's not until 2016 that David Howard Thornton steps in to play Art the Clown in the Terrifier film. The sequel, Terrifier 2, of course, came out in 2022. In 2020, 2023, Art the Clown made an appearance in Pete Davidson's show Bupkis. This is the moment that Art the Clown starts to cross the line from horror icon to pop culture icon. And of course, this Friday, October 11th, Terrifier 3 is being released. This year, Terrifier and Art the Clown also had several big merchandise drops in Spencer's and Spirit Halloween, but he also found his way into Call of Duty. Now, after that quick history lesson, you cannot tell me that Art the Clown is not an icon.
This is my official apology video to the original Salem's Lot. Before I get into that though, because that's going to make it sound like I didn't like this movie, I did. I enjoyed the new Salem's Lot. So let me just say that, like, if you like vampire movies, I think people will enjoy this. Like, it's a good, fun, campy vampire movie. It has some good effects. It has some really good cinematography. Like, there are these beautiful shots of the town that I think are really nice to look at. There's some really good blood and gore and some good kills in it. Overall, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. Again, I think it was entertaining. I would absolutely watch it again, and I would recommend it. However, is it a good adaptation of the source material? Not really. And that's fine. I don't think it has to be perfect in order to be a good movie, which is why I'm still saying it's a good movie. But the reason I say I owe an apology to the original Salem's Lot is because I, for years, have been saying I think Salem's Lot needs a reboot. Because the original Salem's Lot, being that it was a mini-series, I always thought was too long and dragged out. God, was I fucking wrong, because this movie made me realize that that was necessary to the unfolding of this story. All that extra time, which I always thought was just not well paced and was again just like drawn out because it was a series, all of that was essential to the way that the reveal of Barlow unfolded. It was necessary to build that impending doom and that impending dread of them wondering what's going wrong in this town. That buildup was 100% necessary, and that is something that you cannot accomplish in a 2-hour movie. Unless you're Mike Flanagan. And I've been seeing a lot of reviews saying, like, Mike Flanagan should be the only one that can do adaptations, and, like, I totally agree with that. And while I think he could accomplish it, I think even he would have had a really difficult time doing it because you need that time of like a series or something longer than a 2-hour movie to get the full effect and the full character development that is present in the book. So with that being said, yes, in comparison to the book, I do feel like this movie was rushed and the character development and the character arcs just weren't there. But again, if you look at it separate from the book and separate from the source material, is it a good vampire movie? I would say yes.
Sometimes I just be talking to myself and then I zone out. When my therapist say that's not healthy.
News came out on September 29th. He the therapist. Damn. Yeah, Mr. Prada. They saw him outside his apartment with a tarp and he was bringing it out. Police were like, what is this? They go into the tarp. It's the body of the therapist. Oh, so everyone's trying to figure out now what kind of tools did he have because his body was like, you know what I mean? So what happened after he ditched the body, he stole his therapist's car. Driving around, trying to flee from the cops. He crashed the car and he started running on foot to escape. Then they caught him on foot somewhere. But a lot of people are saying that, I don't know if it's true, but he only got caught because while he was on the run, he reposted a TikTok. He just reposted something. El criminal.
The following footage was posted by Rochelle G, who had caught something disturbing while exploring an abandoned house. The house used to belong to a happily wed couple who were known as the Evinrudes. But then one night, something very tragic happened to the couple. Mr. and Mrs. Evinrude were relaxing at home when out of nowhere, an intruder breaks in and kills them both. The couple's family was devastated upon hearing about this. They decided to not sell the house out of respect for the couple. But after a while, they decided to rent out the property. However, renters complained of strange occurrences, some of which are just creepy. From drastic temperature changes to seeing shadow-like figures standing outside their window, renters had enough reason to leave the place. The house has been abandoned ever since. That is until Rochelle goes inside and begins to record. She hopes to capture footage of the strange occurrences reported by tenants. But little does she know that something very unsettling would be caught on camera. This is what she caught. Rochelle continues to explore, but something downright creepy is caught on camera without her noticing. Be sure to pay close attention or you'll miss it. As Rochelle pans the camera to the door, a silhouette of what appears to be a hand can be seen in the corner. It is only seen for about a second before quickly disappearing behind the doorway. Rochelle walks over to where the hand was spotted, but when she gets there, the space is empty. Now that's creepy. Now what's even more unsettling about this is the fact that the hand appears at the spot where Miss Evinrude had been found dead. Could it be that Miss Evinrude's apparition was caught on camera, or was something else caught instead? Perhaps this might have been a squatter who was spying on Rochelle, but given that the space where they were seen is cornered with no exit, it isn't certain as to what exactly was captured. One thing's for sure though, Rochelle doesn't plan on coming back to this place, as what was seen on footage has left her spooked.
I low-key heard this one. You heard this? Is it the She Knows? Yeah, it's She Knows. But the popular one is like, oh, She Knows was like Sean Knowles.
Knowles,
like,
yeah.
So Jay-Z's real name is Sean, and P. Diddy's name is Sean, and Knowles is the last name of Beyonce. Alright, but check this out. The lyrics tell themselves. Remember the three celebrities I was talking about? Yeah. In the song, J. Cole says, R.I.P. Aaliyah, R.I.P. Left Eye, what? Michael Jackson, I see ya, just as soon as I die.
Wait, what did he say? Michael Jackson, I see ya?
So he's saying like he sees who died. He's pointing out each one. TikTok is going crazy about the She Knows, but there's more lyrics that tie in.
What does it say?
Later in the song, he says, got me up so high, try to get a piece of the apple pie. So Apple Pie is a song by Destiny's Child. Featuring who? Beyonce, part of Destiny's Child. Yeah. And there's more. Everybody knows this song. Popular Beyonce song. If you want it, what? Put a ring on it. He says here, wait, what you want from to put a ring on it? Now check this out. It goes later in the song. I can't be what you want from me. Well, alright. Slow it down though. I can't be what you want from me. Beyonce. Oh! Yeah, fam! That's what he's saying. The whole song is about Beyonce. Who's he signed to?
Oh, he signed to them?
He signed to Rock Nation, fam.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
He signed to Rock Nation, Jay-Z, Beyonce.
Really?
It's all there.
Jordan Peele is an icon. Let's do it. Get Out is about this guy named Chris and his girlfriend Rose, and the two of them are getting ready to go on a trip to meet Rose's parents. Chris asks Rose, like, do they know that I'm black? And Rose is like, no, but don't worry, they won't care. So they get there and we meet Rose's brother Jeremy and her parents, her father Dean, who is a neurosurgeon, and her mother Missy, who is a hypnotherapist. Now they start kind of peppering in these like weird racial comments, like the father's like, oh, I would have voted Obama in for a third term if I could. And Chris also notices that the housekeeper and the groundskeeper are both black and they are acting super strange already. So Chris reveals that he's a smoker, so later that night, Missy is like, let me put you under hypnosis and we can cure that. During this session, we learn that Chris's mother was killed in a hit-and-run accident when he was a kid, and he carries guilt for that because he waited too long to call the police. So Missy puts him under hypnosis by tapping her tea glass, and that's when he enters this place called the Sunken Place. The next morning, he thinks it was all a dream, but then he realizes he no longer has the desire to smoke, so it actually worked. So the next day is the family's annual get-together, which Chris attends. And it's him and a whole bunch of white people. And all these white people are making super weird comments to him, like about his physique, about other like famous black people. But then he sees this other guy who is married to this older white woman. And Chris is like, oh, thank God, I'm so happy to see another black person here. But this guy is acting super fucking weird. So Chris goes to take a picture of this guy Logan, but when the flash goes off, his nose starts to bleed and he flips the fuck out and like grabs Chris and starts screaming at him to get out. The others all restrain Logan, and then Dean later tells him that Logan had an epileptic seizure and that's why he acted the way that he did. And Logan comes back again completely weird and apologizes to Chris. Now, the reason Chris took this photo was to send to his best friend Rod, who was a TSA officer. Rod and Chris have been talking periodically throughout this whole movie, and Rod is like suspicious of the whole thing. So Chris starts to feel pretty uncomfortable and goes to Rose asking for them to leave, but while that's happening, we see a separate scene of an auction taking place with Chris's photo. Meanwhile, Rod looks into the photo that Chris sent him and realizes that Logan is actually a missing man named Andre. So Rod goes to the police because he thinks this whole thing is a big conspiracy, but of course they don't believe him. So Chris is packing up to leave, but while he's doing that, he goes into Rose's closet and discovers this shoebox of a bunch of photos. And the photos are all of Rose with various black people. One of those people is the housekeeper, Georgina, and another is the groundskeeper, Walter. So Chris is like, that's weird because you told me I was the first black person you've ever dated. So at this point, he's even more suspicious and is like, Rose, give me the keys, we need to leave. And at this point, Rose's parents and brother are all blocking the door, preventing him from getting out. And then Rose reveals that she's in on it too. Missy hits her tea glass, which causes Chris to collapse and pass out. When Chris wakes up, he's strapped to a chair in the basement and there is this TV playing. Playing on the TV is this video by Rose's grandfather, Roman, explaining how their family performs these transplants. Basically, they transplant white people's brains into black people's bodies to give white people the preferred physical characteristics that they want. Meanwhile, the consciousness of the black person that they take over gets stuck in the sunken place forever. Through the intercom, Chris is spoken to by Jim, who is the guy that bought him in the auction. Jim is blind and basically explains to Chris, like, I don't care what color you are, I just need your eyesight. The plan is for them to transfer his brain into Chris's body. A little while later, Missy comes into the room and taps her glass again to knock Chris out. As he's knocked out, Jeremy comes in to get him for surgery. But Chris, being smart as fuck, had actually taken cotton out of the chair and put it in his ears so that he couldn't hear the tap of the glass, so he never got knocked out. Chris manages to knock Jeremy out and then he goes to find Dean. Chris impales Dean with a pair of antlers that was hanging on the wall and kills him, but then accidentally sets a fire because he knocks a candle over. Chris then runs into Missy in the kitchen and she tries to attack him, but Chris manages to stab and kill her. As Chris is going to leave, he's attacked by Jeremy, who's still alive, but then manages to overpower him again and kill Jeremy. As he's driving away, Chris accidentally hits Georgina with his car. Now, we learned earlier that Georgina is actually Rose's grandmother with her consciousness inside of Georgina's body. So Chris looks at this and is overcome by guilt because of his mother's hit and run, and he relates it to this. So he picks her up and takes her in the car to get her help, but she awakens and fucking attacks him. A struggle ensues between the two of them, and ultimately the car crashes and Georgina is killed on impact. So now Rose and Walter are the only people left alive. And Walter is actually Roman, Rose's grandfather. And they follow Chris and attack him. But learning from what happened with Logan, Chris uses his camera flash to neutralize Walter. So Walter snaps out of his trance and is himself again. He uses the shotgun to shoot himself, but before he does that, he shoots Rose. Chris gets on top of a dying Rose and starts to strangle her, and that's when we see police sirens. So most people watching this movie are now assuming that people are going to see a black man strangling a white girl and they're going to shoot him. But alas, it's Rod in his TSA car. Chris gets into the car and the two of them drive away as Rose is left to bleed out on the road.
In this video, your grandma goes crazy and tries to kill you.
Oh, no. This is terrifying. Why are you just watching static?
Darling, could you please bring me a cup of the water?
Ugh. What is this? They not even gonna call no more. She's just gonna give it a water.
Thank you, lazy.
Grandma, don't drink that. Oh, Grandma. Oh my God, Grandma. Ugh, your breath stink. Okay, now we gotta buy a new glass.
What would I do?
Oh. Grandma. Grandma. Little girl, you need to run. Oh, wow, okay. Oh, the hell. Oh! You need to relax. Huh? Oh my God!
Wish that